Almost that time. Got some things to say. Let me share this to the right. One more second. All right. Good evening, everybody, or morning, or afternoon, whenever you decide to look at this. Now, I came across a YouTube channel that I follow a lot, and it's so funny how things turn out. One second, let me finish sharing this. One more second. Do all this stuff myself. Wanted to make this live and real because this is a real topic and a real situation. I think that needs to be addressed in all kung fu or martial arts groups. One more second. All right. Now, I really want to make a very cool and real reaction to Adam Chan Kung Fu podcast, right? What surprised me was the fact that nobody has really ever, you know, talked about Adam's stuff online, and we spend a lot, except for maybe one channel, and that would be, yeah, except from one channel. And I always wondered, how come nobody mentions any of Adam's work online, but there will be thousands of people making reactions to stuff that really doesn't matter, like celebrities' lives and scandals and all of that. And I always wondered, you know, why can't it be for the same thing for martial arts? And there is a huge elephant in the room that I think that needs to be addressed as we go into a new era of martial arts and kung fu, right? Because there is a new generation coming, right? We have lots of TV shows, we have lots of movies that are now coming out, animes, all types of stuff, you know. There's starting to be a rebirth. So I think there is some things that need to be addressed, especially as I enter my stage, right? For what I want to do. Right? And so if you guys don't know a little bit about me before we get into a reaction to Adam Chance podcast, I am a traditional martial artist of mm, about going on 20 years, right? In one second while I share the screen to And here it is. And karate, taekwondo, wrestling, uh, underground fights, sparring, bodyguard work, you name it, right? So I have a very different perspective of when it comes to training, when it comes to teaching. My perspective is totally different, and it took me a while to find the right home, right? Um, and I think I found the right home here in Southern Dragon, Chinuk Sun's lineage, right? My seafood Q is like I call them, right? And they have a lot of fight experience, right? And they like the fact that I have fight experience. So our training and our methods is very different, right? And what I found that it's sometimes that rubs people the wrong way when you're different. And it doesn't matter what situation it is, right? There is this phobia of being different, of people being different, right? And not just different, but in terms of martial arts and kung fu, right? A sense of realism that that shocking. I don't even want to call it. It's hard to put it into words, but it's like you ever stand in a room with a guy and you just know, like, man, he could really fuck me up if he wanted to. You just get this feeling, right? And let me choose my words right when I say this, right? Because there is a clear difference between what I put out, right, and from what others put out, right? And I just keep it there. And I chose to do that rather than post forms and drills. I show applications. I back it up with science. I back it up with history. And unfortunately, in a lot of times in the Kung Fu community, there isn't that. So then you have this whole culture that believes Kung Fu doesn't work and all that, right? That's fine. You know, you let them be however they want to be, right? But then you have this certain sect of people who I would like to respectfully to say the old guard, right? People who have been out there for a while. There is a certain sect of them, and not just with martial arts, with everything. I believe that hold, impede, hinder the progress because that reminds them of something. We'll get more into that, right? But I want to preface what I want to say about that. And if you didn't see the pictures already up from before I came on, right? There you go. We're gonna get to that. All right. Let's see what Mr. Adam Chan has to say. All right, here we go. Fair use.
So, in context of tribes,
Yeah.
prejudice, hate, racism,
Yeah.
all that stuff
Uh-huh.
is because of tribal mentality. My group, my identity,
Me,
my
yeah.
people.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are on that side. You know, screw you guys.
Yeah.
We're the best. So on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Politics, even.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, but you said, I know, being a tribal mentality, tribal setting, brotherhood, all that stuff is good.
Yeah.
These guys not arguing, but they're saying like, hey man, what about this aspect of it? You didn't.
Yeah.
So
Everything is yin and yang, right? So I guess I did a bad job because I'm going to talk about one side, but please put a link of that tribal episode in the description,
Yeah.
right, where I
Hey,
talked about a good
go-
aspect.
go down
So
to
if you want to know about
the video.
the study of tribe, I think it would be good to track down a psychologist or anthropologist that specialize in that. I'm not that person, right? So when I was talking about tribes, I was strictly talking about the experience that I went through from a martial artist point of view,
Boom.
to use the loaded word of warriorship type of tribe, right? And I can only speak from that experience. So that's first thing I want to say. So I'm
Right.
not making a blanket statement, right?
Right.
In that perspective is very different than the tribes you quoted with the, what was it you quoted? Like the whole recent
Prejudice, racism, and all the
group
recent stuff.
identity stuff with the
Yeah.
sexual stuff. You're talking about?
Yeah, LGD. Yeah, all
Okay, yeah. So that's very different than, like the Kung Fu stuff, right? Because, well, there's too many ways to approach it, but one of the main differences, and even in Kung Fu, there's many different tribes, right? But strictly what the experience that I went through, and again, you can watch the last episode to, get a feel for what I'm talking about. So if you contrast the two, they're not the same.
Let's go back to that. I think it's about 5 or 10 seconds. Let me see. Let's go back to what his first response. 1 second.
Yeah, so that's very different than, like the Kung Fu stuff, right? First thing I want to say. So I'm not making a blanket statement, right?
Right.
In that perspective is very different than the tribes you quoted with the, what was it you quoted? Like the whole recent.
Prejudice, racism.
Okay. Now, my personal response to that, I would say, is that what he's basically trying to say is that, right, he's only talking about from a martial arts perspective. Right? But Chris is talking about, all the interweavings, right? The dynamics between people and how those identities, right, get created, right? So what he's saying is that, okay, right, you do, because it exists in every facet of any type of thing where people come together. They naturally split up into their own whatever, right? And then it can be blah 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 blah, right? So essentially, like, they're on its own individual thing, right? But Adam's just going to say that he's talking about it from his experience and he's not identifying with trying to talk about politics or anything like that. He's only talking about from his perspective, and it's the same perspective that I'm talking about, and what I want to talk about as well, right? I don't want to make this seem like I'm talking about politics and every other stuff. I'm talking about from only a pure martial arts standpoint, right? And from the pictures that I had already put up, right? I'm prefacing everything that my response to my personal experience from what Adam's about to talk about.
And all the
Group
recent
identity stuff with the
Yeah.
sexual stuff. You're talking about?
Yeah, LGD. Yeah, all
Okay, yeah. So that's very different than, like the Kung Fu stuff, right? Because, well, there's too many ways to approach it, but one of the main differences, and even in Kung Fu, there's many different tribes, right? But strictly what the experience that I went through, and again, you can watch the last episode to, get a feel for what I'm talking about. So if you contrast the two, they're not the same. I know what what you're saying, that it's the whole idea of tribalism, right? But that's like saying all cars is the same. It's not, right? You got trucks, you got sports cars, so it's different. So when I talk about Kung Fu tribal stuff that I was talking about last time, it's different than, let's say, group identity that's in the media constantly, right?
Yeah.
That's very different. And one of the main aspects in the mind that's very different is what we do.
Yeah, okay. Now, pay attention to what he's about to say. Okay? And it prefaces the main point of my perspective of where I want to go with this. And I'm going to split those two. I'm going to split it in two. What he's about to say, I'm about to split it in two. Not only as a general sense, but from what I personally experience. All right, so here we go.
Is facts over feelings.
Facts over feelings. Facts over feelings. You can break that down in so many ways, right? I don't want to just keep letting his play. I have to give my reaction, right? But facts over feelings.
Always. Because if, let's say we're doing machetes, right? When we're working on machetes or working on anything non-cooperative, empty hands or multiple opponent situation or any type of situation like that, right? Again, taps into your reptilian brain way back when we were monkeys, when we were tribal guys, right?
Right.
That is definitely facts over feeling. You test something, if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. If you did something and it doesn't work, I can't sugarcoat it and tell you that you're doing great and everything is going to be great. Just because you identify as a warrior, I'm supposed to agree with you. Even
now, for example, right? I had did martial arts, right? For way before I got into boxing, right? Um, so even though I had another skill set, right, with my feet and hand, rich hands, all that stuff, right? I can't go into a boxing gym, right, and assert my authority. You see what I'm trying to say? Right? You can't, even if you knew how to box, say if you started out with boxing, right, and you may know more setups, you may know more traps, right? You may know more strategies than another boxer there, right? Say if like a whole bunch of boxers came into like a gym one day to train together, right? Just because you may know more strategies and setups and know more different boxing styles in the system of boxing, they're not just going to let you leave it there. They're going to say, all right, put your pads on and get in the ring. It's very simple and it's not hard. If you go to, if a bunch of karate people, Kyokushin karate people, because they throw down, right? If a whole bunch of them got the training together, right? And say if somebody, and the same thing with box, say if somebody, okay, we need somebody to take the lead and run us through a training, right? And if everybody had like a tournament coming up, right? You can't just pick anybody, right? If everybody's training together for a tournament, somebody has to take the lead, right? And you could go off of rank, right? You could go off of, and if they're all black belts, say if they're all black belts in their own Kyokushin dojos, right? Right. And say if the boxers were already, uh, has some sort of similar rank, right? And they all decide to come to train together for like their own individual tournaments, all right? Somebody has to take the lead, right? The person who has the greater skill is more than likely going to be up there in that upper echelon, in that hierarchy of leading the training. That's why other boxers go to better boxers to train with them, even though they're in the same sport. They may be even close in the same weight class. They go to them because they know, okay, yeah, even though I may have gotten in some fight, okay, cool, I might have some fights, all right, but his record is better than mine. what he can do is better than mine. It doesn't matter how I feel. If I'm really in the sport and I plan on actually having to use it, people forget that, yeah, it's an art, but they forget the martial aspect of it. This isn't a game, right? People say, oh, I've got weapons and all that stuff. Well, you still have to pull that weapon out. Most attacks happen by surprise. But you're going to have your weapon already out? What if somebody comes up from behind you? What if somebody starts distracting you and comes up from behind you? What if it's dark and you can't aim with your weapon? People don't think about this stuff. You're not just going to listen to anybody. And this is what I see is becoming a problem in the martial art community. People think it's a game. It's not. Say if you were about to go to live in the hood as an experiment. You know how they have those TV shows where they go live in the wilderness? They need to have one for everyday seafoods or masters. Go live in the hood, in a real hood, for a year. Just drop them off with no car. They need to try that. And you have to walk around. Just see if your skills work then.
Even though your stuff clearly doesn't work. Because the next time we go in and protect our village together,
Facts over feelings, people.
You're weaker now, and everyone's going to get killed because of you and because of me lying to you. So that hierarchy, that's another thing. There's a hierarchy, very clear hierarchy in martial arts, since especially in tribal times, is not equality across the board. There is a guy better than you, and it's very natural. It's like a wolf pack. You know exactly who's better than you. Without any words, you just know through a physical medium of getting your ass kicked, right?
Right.
So when we're training,
getting your ass kicked.
If I'm doing something that doesn't work, you're not going to sugarcoat it and tell me it does. There's instant biofeedback. I get knocked out, I get my arm broken or whatever. I get cut, I get stabbed. So there's definitely facts over feeling, because it's not about me, it's not about you, it's about the people we're protecting, and we have a responsibility. So if something doesn't work factually, you don't care what the other guy's feeling is. You have to teach them competence.
Now, I'll say this. Okay. Now, not everybody in martial arts comes to actually defend themselves, right? They think, oh, okay, I just like being there with the group. I enjoy learning it and all of that. Okay. And that's fine. That's totally fine. Everybody goes into their own thing for their own specific reason. Okay. But we cannot lose sight. Now, remember, I said I was going to split this in two different ways. Okay? Because there is remember, this whole theme was about the dark side of tribalism. All right? And now how there is a huge majority of martial arts in all styles, right? Who don't go into the martial arts side for the strict, for one of the main reasons is to actually see if it works. They go for other things, which is okay, right? But what has happened, right, is that a lot of these people are starting to band together and go higher up. What does that create? If a group of people who don't come into martial arts for one of the main foundational purposes is to protect themselves and see if it works, which is okay, but now they're starting to not only band together, which is natural, right? They're starting to move higher up on the totem pole. Anytime And with anything, when there's a huge success, they could become what's the word? Not disdain. Uh, Man, not competence. What's the word? Um, I know it starts with a C. This is bugging me.
The only way to do that is to take factual feeling, right? But if you're looking at that modern stuff you're talking about, and you can't really lump it together as, oh, it's all tribalism. Well, in a way it is, but one significant difference is this idea that just because you identify with something, rather it is true or not, doesn't matter. As long as your feelings are intact, I'm going to agree with you. Or I'm an asshole, or I'm a sexist, or I'm a whatever. I don't agree with that line of thinking, right? If 2 + 2 is 4, I'm not going to tell you it's 5 just because you identify with it that it's 5. I don't think that's right. On a surface, it is right, right? On a surface, it is right because who wants to cause other people pain? I don't want to cause you pain, right? So even if you're wrong, I'm going to tell you, hey, it's okay. Because empathy, we have empathy. So
Yeah, empathy is very, very good, and he's right about that, right? But the other E though is enabling, right? And that goes what I was just about to say about when you get a group of people, right? And be honest, because that's not hard to learn a form. It's not hard to keep your body in structure and move in patterns and all that. That's okay, right? But it's hard to use it. It's hard to fight. It's not easy, especially with Kung Fu, right? So if a group of these people who came in the Kung Fu world to not learn how to fight, which is especially with Hakka Kung Fu, right? Who didn't come in to really learn how to fight and come in from the art, which is okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Everybody goes into their own thing for their own reason. That's fine, right? We're talking about what Chris was talking about when he first came, right? When I stopped it and go back to the beginning when I first stopped it, he's talking about the dynamics, right? And remember, I was going to split this in two. So I'm trying to say this the right way, right? When you have a group of people who know they don't know how to really use it, never been pushed and tested like that, right? That can cause something. That can cause something inside of them to have a worry, a disdain of being, I don't know, having the truth told.
I don't want to hurt your feelings, so I'm going to support you in what you think is true, even when it's not, right? Okay, I get that. But that's short-term compassion. That's not long-term compassion. You want to play the long game. The long game is, even if it hurts your feeling, I have to tell you what is true. And you should learn to accept that. And here's the reason why. And this is very significant nowadays of mental illness, right? Especially with the younger generation. If you're constantly telling people they're correct even when they're not, out of compassion, it might be compassion in the short term because you're not hurting their feelings, but in the long term, they're no longer competent. And incompetence is one of the biggest issue of nowadays, where they're socially awkward, they can't get a job, they can't do this, they can't do that. There's a lot of I can't, because since they're very young, they've been taught that they're special and they're great and they're beautiful, even when they fail. So they've never been taught how to go from zero to climb the mountain of competence.
Absolutely.
Which means you have to fail over and over and over and over again, and then override it and then get good at something. It doesn't matter what it is, whether it's finances or
Absolutely. Listen, man, when you first start out and you have a person come at you, doesn't matter if it's boxing or wrestling or kung fu, right? You're going to get your ass kicked, and it's not going to be fun. You're going to get fucked up, and you got to learn how to take that. A person out here is not going to wait for you. They look for weakness. They wait till your back is turned. They eye you like predators.
Sports or martial art or anything that you do, you go from zero and you climb that mountain.
And you have to admit that. You have to go there. Like with any problem, you got to admit, like, dang, man, this guy's up here showing the stuff and all the stuff and using it, man. Like, fuck. I don't know how to do that. Like going into boxing, a person's hitting pads, and the person hits the pad so hard that pad falls off the person's hand. And you both do boxing. And then he looks at you like, damn, I can't do that. If I spar him, that's going to be my head. I better listen to him. I better not talk about what I don't know. I better shut up. The internet has changed everything. Internet has changed everything. Now, people have lost touch with reality. With as much shit that's being talked right now on the internet, you would have never been able to get away with that when I was learning martial arts. There was no internet like that, unless you were writing notes. But even then, a person could find you. You can't go into a dojo talking the way people talk on the internet now. Are you kidding me? You go into a boxing gym with that? Are you kidding me? You go to a boxing gym in the hood with the same type of talk that a lot of people talk on the internet when it comes to kung fu, right? You go into a boxing gym in the hood like that, you're gonna get knocked out. They're not gonna wait for you to get in the ring. Somebody might sucker punch you. Buy the weights. The internet has changed everything. People have lost touch with reality. If you know you have gotten into the martial art, not for fighting, but for the art's sake, which is okay, there is nothing wrong with admitting that and listening and giving support to people who really know how to go there, even at a small level. There's nothing wrong with that. I know how to box. I've been in a boxing ring, right? But when the champion walks in the room, I watch my step. I watch my mouth. I watch my tone. When the champion trains, you get out the ring. When a person who has more experience than you walks into the gym, walks into a dojo, the first thing that they have him do is bow. The sensei will stop the class, turn around, and make you bow to a green belt, to a blue belt. They'll stop the class and make you bow. People have forgotten that. And that's humility. There's nothing wrong with that.
And on the way, you get tested. On the way, you fail. On the way, you feel pain. On the way, you get frustration. You got to learn how to deal with these negative feelings. That's how character is built. That's how competence is built. That's how success is built, right? But nowadays, what they want to do is they want to grab these kids, put them in a helicopter, drop them in the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
They never learn how to climb the mountain. So you've been lying to them. You've been telling them how great they are when you just drop them off in the top of the mountain. So now when it's their turn to go on their own, they don't know how to do it. So and I'm also guilty right now of making a blanket statement, but that's what I see, especially when I used to do a lot of counseling and teaching is like.
Now, you see what Adam just did there? Thank you. Did you see what he just did there? Even though this guy is one of the best people who can use Wing Chun on YouTube, he still even corrects himself right then and there and admits a possible fault. What is so wrong with that? Have people gotten so high and mighty that they can't even admit their own shit or possible shit. What happened? What happened to admitting you could be wrong? How is that so bad? Adam just did it right there. I'll rewind it for you.
Making a blanket statement. I'm off on the top of the mountain. So now when it's their turn to go on their own, they don't know how to do it. So I'm also guilty right now of making a blanket statement, but that's.
See, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, damn, I'm probably guilty of this, but he's talking about his own personal experience. It's not, there's nothing wrong with that.
What I see, especially when I used to do a lot of counseling and teaching, is like severe low self-esteem right now is a big problem. You get all these superficial problems, like, oh, I'm not making enough money. Oh, I can't get laid. Oh, I can't do this. I can't do that. Okay. But these are just the symptoms. But underlying it all is usually like, look, I feel like shit. I don't feel like there's any meaning in my life. I can't. You understand?
And there's nothing wrong with that. You have to go there if you want to fix the problem. Just like with Kung Fu, like, damn, do I really know how to use this, man? If I don't get a chance to pull my weapon, if I don't get a chance to claw somebody, and I get surprised, can I really do it?
I can't. I don't feel capable. So if you underneath it all is incompetence. I don't feel I can do this. I can't in my head. You're a Mexican, not a Mexican. You know, like that movie? Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like, I don't feel like I can do it. I can't get in shape. I can't get a girl. I can't get a better job. Instead, they're blaming others. They're like, oh, I'm not making money because there's a recession, because the politicians, oh, I can't get laid because woman's toxic. I can't. Yeah, but.
He's absolutely right. He is so right. I didn't start getting good with girls until I admit I was fucking awkward. I dressed awkward. My voice was awkward. You know what I did? I was working at the Hilton. I was doing dishes. And there was this light-skinned dude in there. Oh, man, talking to all the girls. Man, he was the guy, the player. He was the type of dude that would bring strippers home. He would go to a club and bring the strippers with him without paying anything. I befriended him. I sure did. I learned a lot from him. But I had to admit, damn, I ain't got no game. Not that you should need game. Now I understand you don't need it, right? But you have to go there. And the same thing with Kung Fu. You have to go there, not only for yourself, but for others. If you don't go there, there is this potential for a huge facade and an escape from reality. There is nothing wrong with admitting that I didn't get into martial arts for the sake of fighting. There's nothing wrong with saying, man, I just like being a library. There's nothing wrong with that. There were they had in an army, you have scrolls of the scribers, and they would write shit down, but they were still in the military. What's wrong with that? They could probably still shoot a gun. I'm sure even if you guys can't fight with the Kung Fu, you could probably throw a good punch. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But you still have to go there like, man, but at the same time, I still need to train hard. Even though I've been in it for a while, right? I still need to break that guy right there, though. Kick my ass. Even if he hasn't been in it long enough, he could probably kick my ass. Because I didn't get into it for fighting's sake. And there's nothing wrong with that.
How's that going to help you? And we learned that the first day in martial art. If you're punching me in the head and you beating the crap out of me and I'm in a fetus position and you're stomping on my head like a trampoline, I can blame you. Hey, I didn't do nothing to start the fight, so your fault. How can you beat up on someone smaller? Why you're mugging me? Why are you abusing me? Why are you kicking me in the head? That's wrong. Okay, I'm blaming you. I'm blaming you. Does that help me though? No, you're still kicking me. Why don't I learn how to move out the way? Why don't I learn how to fight back? Why don't I learn how to block? Why don't I learn how to parry? And I'm using it as a metaphor, right? But then the argument is I shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
Okay, it's true. You shouldn't have to, but it doesn't mean it's not happening. Rather, it should or should not doesn't change the fact you are punching me in the head in the present moment. I got to learn how to deal with it. So when life hits us, we got to learn how to deal with it. You don't have enough money, you got to learn how to make some. You want a girl, you got to learn how to get one. You want to get in shape, you got to go work out. Nothing is handed to you for free.
Amen.
That's offensive, and I'm sorry, but you got to learn how to have competence.
Now, look, at the same time, there's nothing wrong with, reaching out for help. Everybody needs it, right? I had to go learn how to use it. I had to go learn how to fight. So I was getting my ass kicked. A lot of people seem to forget when I first got into it, I wasn't winning. No way. I sucked when I first started to try to learn how to fight. Even though my dad was some military champion in martial arts, I sucked. I was fast, but I sucked. I got fucked up a lot for years until something snapped. Till something snapped. Then everything changed. It doesn't take that long to learn how to use it if you train the right way. You don't make any excuses.
Everything is about competence.
Yeah.
Even if you want to eat, you got to cook it. Well, I won't cook it then. I'll just order out. But then you need money.
You need money? That means
no one owes you anything.
Yeah.
Right? So when I was counseling, you get that a lot. Guys are 30, 35, 40, still staying at home. And they still can't really do anything. And there's nothing wrong with that if you give it your best shot, but they don't even know how to give it their best shot. Right? So you can't lump that together with warriorship and Kung Fu tribalism. Come on. That's not even the same thing. One is based on the idea that you must develop competence.
Now, here's where I will disagree with Adam on this, right? From my personal perspective, because it's opposite, right? If I suck at something, I'm not going to blame tribalism. If a person blocks me from sharing my posts and I've gotten the recognition of my seafood that, hey, this is pretty good, right? But if it was the opposite and he said, oh man, this is bad, and I still try to share it, and nobody and big pages won't let me share it, I'm not going to blame racism. I'm not going to blame tribalism. Absolutely not. And this is getting to my point. The I love Kung Fu groups, the I love martial arts groups, I really hope that you change your mind and your decision to keep doing this. Okay? Before we get into more Adam Chance Kung Fu podcast, I want to say this. Let me switch the screen here, because this needs to be said. All right, let me see. How do I do this? Okay. Share screen. Window. Hold up. Now look. Look at this. This is inexcusable, man. There's no reason for this. In a group with 1.4 million people, but if you look, it's not like people aren't posting regularly. Look at this, but this is okay. Look at this. Who is your favorite martial artist? But this is okay, a misspelled word. About, I would say, 4 years ago, I had made a post talking about the racism in martial arts. I went straight there. And not only did people agree with me, they agreed with me so much, right? They agreed with me so much. Let me see. Where's my content now? Let's see. Published. Oh, okay. I'm on a different page. They agree with me so much that they had invited me to do a podcast with them. This is real life, right? Now, the original page was I love martial arts, right? But the I love kung fu and the I love martial arts, they're both the same. They're all the same people. They're all the same people. So we did the podcast in the car, this martial arts group and I, right? And we had gotten to a point where I said, like, yeah, of course, you don't see kung fu out there, right? And of course, that it's not because of the way you think. And he was confused on why I said that. I was like, yeah, kung fu is not a sport. I literally told him this. And when I said that, the energy changed in the room. Right? This is me having a podcast with this martial arts group, right? He invited me. He called me up and we were doing it. We were on the phone. I was in Florida at the time, believe it or not. And we were doing the podcast. I was in a car. My kid was asleep, right? And he said that, so when we got to the point, everything was going good up until we got to the point where I talked about why you don't see it in MMA. And I said for two reasons. Number one, right? It's not, people aren't training like athletes usually train when they go into these kung fu schools. That's the first thing. And the second thing is because of the lethalness of the art, right? You guys got to remember that this stuff, especially stuff that was created about 400, 300 years ago, there was a reason why it was created around that time, right? It was being actually used, okay? So when you have people and not remembering that, right? You can't gouge somebody's eyes out in MMA. You can't kick somebody in the balls in MMA. You can't chop a person behind the neck in MMA. You can't crush somebody. You can't knee and elbow somebody's spine in MMA, right? You can't grab flesh in MMA, right? You can't do that. They have rules, so it makes it non-lethal, right? So when people talk about kung fu, they forget that it's still a lethal art. That's another reason why you don't see it. And ever since then, the energy changed, and then he didn't. He didn't want to talk anymore. He hurried up and got off the phone. Because remember, this was going to be recorded. So he knew if that was being put out, that would cause 1.4 million people to be like, damn, call them all out. He knew that. He reached out to me. And I told him the truth. And ever since then, he went ghost. Won't publish the content. And everything was all peachy keen. It's not like we got off the phone with an argument. Right? You can't claim that it was something that, you know, some disrespectful encounter happened. You can't claim that. Because my post, when I posted about the racism in the martial arts and in the Kung Fu, right? It got thousands and thousands of likes. It was huge. I met this hot ass Latina, right? She was a monster, man. Woo! You don't want to fight her, boy, right? And we became like best friends for like 3 years till she got a dude and she disappeared or whatever, right? But that's besides the point, right? This is ridiculous. So I'm gonna go back to Adam Chan's Kung Fu podcast, man, because we're going there. I got a little time before I have to do stuff, but this is absolutely ridiculous, man. There is no excuse for this whatsoever. Now, trying to hide my stuff, man, all because you know there's nothing wrong with pushing the culture forward. You guys got to stop this, man.
Facts over feelings so you can protect others. The other one is based on feelings over facts, just so as an individual you feel better.
So
and if I don't
like
get my
part of
way,
a
I'm
group.
going to form a group and bitch and complain on that.
Yeah, exactly. So you got group identity.
But the bottom line doesn't lie, though. Statistically, mental illness is increasing like a motherfucker. Yeah. Bottom line is incompetence creates suffering. You can argue it any way you like, but let's look at the bottom line. People are suffering because of this. It's not helping. Competent people don't suffer. They got a problem, they kill it. They got a problem, they solve it. They can't do something, they do it. Incompetent people suffer. So your compassion of feelings over fact, what you're actually doing is creating long-term suffering. And you call that love.
Now, man, that's deep. That's so deep for a lot of reasons, because you have a lot of people out here who try to help others and they put band-aids over it. Right? I'm going to keep giving you stuff. Oh, I'm going to keep doing this and keep doing that, right? Don't ever push the person to try to solve the problem. They try to make a bed for it and say, oh, it's okay. And the shit keeps happening. Then you're complicit of that.
Yeah.
And you see that in martial art. So not all tribalism in martial art is good either. I mean, in the old days, it's like you got a hierarchy, right? Guys come in, they want to learn something. They go, hey, I want to learn. Okay, so you teach them footwork. You don't teach them anything new. If you don't like it, you can leave. Because if you can't even move on the floor with your feet, you're basically a car without wheels. What's the point of that? So
now, man, Adam is going there. Let me rewind that.
You learn footwork. Teach them anything new. If you don't like it, hey, I want to learn. Okay, so you teach them footwork. Guys come in, they want to learn something. They go, hey, I want to learn. Okay, so you teach them footwork. You don't teach them anything new. If you don't like it, you can leave. Because if you can't even move on the floor with your feet, you're basically a car without wheels.
Let's stop right there, because a lot of people care about the dollar. And they don't have that option for them to leave. They want to keep paying bills, keep bringing that money in. Or the other side of that is, oh, well, I came from the art. I'm not trying to learn how to fight. I want something new. Now, this is boring. You're not stimulating me, right? Yeah, so they switch it up. Okay, well, you do this instead, right? What does that create? What happens when that happens?
Wheels. What's the point of that? So you learn footwork. Okay, the guy gets footwork. It might take him 3 months. It might get him 6 months. It doesn't matter. Okay, then you learn how to punch. Because if you can't punch or kick or elbow, if you have no weapons, you can't fight. Okay, so the guy's got to learn how to hit, right? You hold a pad for him. Everyone thinks they're tough, but if they haven't been trained before, that's not true. As soon as they hit, their wrist hurts. Their shoulders are up. Their elbows are up. They're not torquing properly. They're uncoordinated. They can punch with their left, but not their right. They can kick, but they can't punch.
Yeah.
This goes on forever. They don't even have basic coordination, right? Okay, so they go through that. You encourage them, you correct them, they go through that. Once they get that, you go, okay, you're pretty coordinated. You can throw a punch now. Good. Let's put speed on top of that. Let's see you do this fast now. They can't. They get tensed up. Okay. After a while, they can. That's
Yeah, if they stay, right?
awesome. Now you're fast and coordinated. Beautiful. Let's throw some power in there. Let's see if you can. A lot of guys are fast, but no power. A lot of guys are powerful, but they're slow. Okay, let's see you put the two together. That takes them a few more months.
And you know, pad work and testing your powers is so integral, right? Hitting something. People got all this pent up aggression, right? That's why they have businesses dedicated to destroy rooms, right? Which is cool, right? Or you can, learn how to really do it, and then you can let it go, and then it becomes an art. All just doing forms and stuff is okay, right? But to hit something, to feel resistance,
Okay, now the guy has footwork and he has weapons, right? Oh, that's great. Let's see you do that when someone's punching you in the face. So now he qualified to start 2-man drills, right? Okay, they start playing 2-man drills. Doesn't matter what style.
And oh man, he is that takes a while. A lot of people get hit and they get mad or whatever, and I believe is actually should be reversed. And in my personal opinion, I think a person should learn how to take a shot, right? Before they start really hitting stuff, right? That's why when I train people, like I make sure like I get up close to them, right? When I bridge and I explain a technique, I do it on them. So they get used to, rather than starting to hit them where I'll just start punching them. That's not what I'm saying, but like, boom. Okay, no, this, and I throw them and I toss them and right. That's what happened to my dragon Sifu, right? Sifu Q. There's plenty of videos out there where he's kicking their students' ass, right? To really feel it, get used to that contact, resistance. You try to do something out here, people are gonna resist it, right? What do? Right? People try to come at you anyway, you're gonna resist it, right? And then you do whatever you need to do, right?
And it's cooperative. I know what you're going to do. You know what I'm going to do. You're playing along with me to help me out. I got to go through that stage. So I started doing that. I said, okay, maybe a year later, you got this dialed in. Okay, now let's see you do it random, non-cooperative. You no longer know what's coming. So I go through that stage. And then you layer this stuff one on top of the other. That's beautiful. Modern times, they come in here, right? What I just laid out, try that. They'll quit within a week. I got to do footwork for six months.
Wow. Let's rewind that back.
Kidding me? In here, right? What I just laid out, try that. They'll quit within a week. I got to do footwork for six months.
Man, listen, bro. This is one of the reasons why how I knew that my dragon clan was legit, like the stories were telling me, right? 6 months I had to do, what was it, 3 to 6 months, nothing but stances and footwork. No form, no technique, nothing but stances and footwork. Now you can see my videos online and go check them out. But a lot of people come there, they don't want to feel pain. They don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to be bored. I had two disciples. Other disciples are twins, right? And if they'll probably watch this, I'll probably make a separate video on this. But I had them do nothing but stances. You know, I give them $1 each time they did it, maybe $2 if they did it really good. And they'd be shocked. Oh, training's over. I'm like, yep. See you there. And they go to the store. Oh, that was easy. They come back. They do the stances again. All right, here's another couple of dollars. They go to the store, get their can. We're like, all right, cool. Shit. Just kept happening. And people were shocked when the boy and the girl were really good a few months later using the Kung Fu. The boy almost broke my arm one time. None but 12 or 13. People looked like they're shocked. I'm like, you're not surprised? They did the foundational work. When he did a form, when he learned the form, it didn't take that long for him to learn how to use it. Boredom, pain.
Kidding me? They're out. Okay. Some guys stick. It's not infrequent for people to come in here and then they learn.
It's not hard, people. And people seem shocked when I can learn Southern Praying Mantis and Dragon from a distance and then have them put their hands on me and be able to actually use it from a distance. And I keep telling you guys, my foundation is really good. And then on top of that, they gave me another foundation. Forget a form. Forget drills. You got to get your body in shape. You hold this form up, as soon as, boom, toppled over. Do your forms against trees or something. Put some weight behind it. Have somebody try to tackle you. Then you'll know. Don't be a paper tiger.
Something literally after they learn it on a Monday, they go teach it on a Thursday.
No, oh my God, I hate this shit.
You can't even do it right in 4 days, but they're already proclaiming themselves as an expert because a lot of them came from different schools. They were already martial art teachers before they came here. That's unethical and that's dishonest. You can't even do it, but you're presenting it as you're an expert, right? And this happens quite a bit. It happens all the time, to the point where even on top of my head, I can think of 3 great teachers that quit teaching because of it. Mm. So just because it's martial arts tribe doesn't mean it's good either.
Now, look, there are some exceptions, okay? Like, damn, it was really good. But it's very clear. There's a fine line between if you know it or not. And that's my point. There is no more fine line anymore. It's all blurred. You can talk your way into being a master nowadays. That's sad. You can literally talk your way into being a master. That creates hate and disdain for people that could actually really do it, especially people that are young. Do you know how many great basketball players and boxers in the hood never get their shot because the management that have all this money behind who they want to be out there blocks them? Oh, we can't have this kid from nothing without our money and our corporation beat us out. That's gonna say they don't need us. Uh-oh. There are diamonds in the rough all around. Never get their fair share because people not being honest with themselves and not wanting to push themselves forward. And then people are shocked when all these kung fu guys are getting knocked out all over the internet. It took one fighter, not a whole bunch. It took one fighter. That Asian dude. Took one. If you got into the art for the sake of the art to be an artist, just say so. They have a whole wushu federation dedicated to it. Some of those wushu guys know how to use sanda. They don't say, okay, I can use sanda. I don't know how to really use kung fu, but I can use kickboxing. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. It's an art form. But there needs to be the hierarchy reestablished. You need to tell yourself, like, but dang, right? Like, okay, I'm good with what I can do, but I can't do that. No. But that shouldn't cause you to have envy and hate and try to hold somebody back, because then now you're being selfish. You're causing a problem. You're stunting the growth of other people like those other diamonds in the rough, like the Bruce Lees, like the Jet Lees. You're blocking them. And then they go into boxing. Then they go into kickboxing. And people wonder why there's nobody else having kung fu. It's been since the 70s. There's nobody out there. A lot of these guys don't choose to stay underground, and I don't blame them. They shouldn't have to stay underground. They should be celebrated out there. Let the people spread the art that are the artists. Let them, but still make a pathway for the other people that can really throw down and cherish them the way you would do a grandmaster. Because it's only going to take one fight or two for the whole boom to happen again. I plan on being there.
This modern mentality has somehow seeped into the warriorship too. It's not right. It's corrupted.
So,
because they identify themselves as an expert, so they automatically. It's like you have a judo club, right? You're a great judo teacher. I come in but I'm a Wing Chun guy. I've been doing Wing Chun 20 years. But I learned judo from you on a Monday. I can't do shit. I can't even break fall properly. On Thursday, I go to my Wing Chun school and I start teaching judo. Do you think that's right? No. But this is happening so much, and I don't want to mention any names, but the industry is corrupted with this, right? And if you try to say anything, they get offended because I identify as a judo expert. How can you? I don't give a fuck what you identify with, man. You're pissing all over the ancestors' work. Woo. These guys won a war to develop this stuff to save lives.
Oh my God, man. I'm going to have to splice this up more than 3 pizzas for 300 people. I'm going to have to splice this up. Let me rewind that back. Do y'all think it's a joke?
Because I identify as a judo expert. How can you? I don't give a fuck what you identify with, man. You're pissing all over the ancestors' work. These guys went to war to develop this stuff.
Went to war to develop this. And how dare you? I love Kung Fu and I love martial art group. How dare you? Not only to me, but to the ancestors that give you this platform, who died, who got cut up, having their friends die on the battlefield, only to hold people back because you make them feel some sort of way because they can actually use it. And then you feel like, oh, there's not enough attention on me. You're pissing on their graves when you do that. And how dare other people that have gotten into martial arts for the sake of artistry have some sort of disdain and some sort of, regardless if you like the person or not, it's not about liking people. It's about, remember Adam said, facts over feelings. You can go back to the beginning. Fact is, I can't do what he does. So what? You work with people you don't like all day. You be cordial and respectful. If somebody's better than you at your department where you work at, you're going to hate them. You're going to stop them from getting a promotion. Don't be a bitch like that. That's bitch shit, man. And that's what's stopping the world from getting a better place. People pissing on other people's work and trying to hold people back. You got to get over yourself. It's ridiculous.
To save lives, you're pissing all over it. The fact that you can't do it and you present yourself as an expert, you're slapping the face of every man and woman that gets up in the morning and do it 40 hours a week. Decades of work and research to help people, to develop people, to change the skeleton system, nervous system, muscular system, to do this under pressure in combat, to save lives. You have pissed over that legacy. And you call that, you get offended because your feelings?
You're stopping families from being fed, man. Doing this shit. It's not right.
What about the feelings of the guy getting jumped and getting his head stomped? What about the person getting raped? What about home evasions? What about carjacking? What about multiple opponents? What about crackheads stabbing people? That's what this stuff was designed for, and you're pissing over. What about that? So ethics is important, right? So when you start valuing feelings over fact, what you're doing is in the short term, you think you're right because you have created compassion, yes. But in the long term, you have created suffering because incompetence creates suffering.
Bam. How hard is it, people? How hard is it? Wake up. You're shitting over the whole culture, talking about what you know, but what you cannot do. You're shitting on the people who actually put the work in, day in and day out, banding together like little schoolgirls, shitting on everybody. And then now you want to try to hold people back who gave up everything to learn this stuff? You need to get over yourself. Because whether you like it or not, shit's still going to happen. And you're going to have egg all over your face, even more. Save yourself the trouble.
And no one wants to hear that because it is easier to blame others for your failure than to say, I'm incompetent and I have to change something. I have to develop myself. That's the first thing. Second thing that is offensive about it is by its very nature, competence is a hierarchy. If we play basketball and you're better than me, that's a hierarchy. We're not equal. If we play golf and you're better than me, that's a hierarchy. We're not equal. There's a reason why there's rank in martial art.
That's right.
How many times have you seen me correct somebody and then I go, hey, drop your elbow? I thought I got 300 times and they rolled their eyes. I mean, the old days wasn't like that. When you first, like 25 years ago, it was like, hey, man, you come in here. You don't even have to verbalize this. The culture was different. You knew your place. You know, look, I can't even hold my fist right. I don't have the basics. I'm not going to go off and try to teach this tomorrow. And it's an internet culture too. Everyone's dropping their 2 cents. Motherfucker, you probably don't even train. What are you talking about?
I remember when...
And it's an internet culture too. Everyone's dropping their 2 cents. Motherfucker, you probably don't even train.
Damn.
What are you talking about?
Look at Chris.
I remember when I first started with you.
Hey, y'all all like Adam Chan, don't y'all? 68,000 subscribers, man. He calling y'all out. He tired of y'all taking his shit. That's what a lot of people do too. They watch your channel and then try to copy your shit and say what you say. and do it all wrong and stuff. It's sad, man. It's really bad. There's no honor anymore, no integrity anymore. And they got the nerve to band together and try to kick everybody out. How selfish, how disrespectful, how dishonorable can you be? Thank you, Adam and Chris. Thank you. And I'm not letting up. I'm not letting this go.
Did only footwork for at least 3 months.
Yeah, but you didn't sit there and start talking about how tough you are. But now it's easy to do it behind a computer screen.
And even if you did do the footwork and all that stuff, can you use it? Regardless if you got into it or not, you have to ask that question and answer it and find your normal place and have respect and honor for the people who can. Otherwise, you're living in a total world of delusion, man. And that creates a mental sickness.
Right? You disrespect people behind a computer screen, which is fine. But what does that do to your life? You know, every time you lie, your brain's recording it, right? If you lie enough times and you know you're lying, your brain's going to go, you're a liar. So you stop believing in yourself. You back to that again. Again, for a short-term gain of dopamine, you got to create long-term suffering in your own brain because now you don't believe in yourself anymore. Every time you brag when you can't back it up, your brain's recording it. It knows you're full of shit. You know you're full of shit. You record it. Why do you think you have low self-esteem?
Bam.
Where do you think this comes from? It falls out of the sky?
Bam, bam, bam. Now, look, I may not have a lot, okay? But you'll see me. I'm not upset. I know I'm going to get mine because I put in the work. That's why I can be like I'm going to be a champion. That's why I can talk the way I talk. Why is he so this? Why is he so that? Because I know I put in the work, man. My Sifu doesn't wake me up in the morning. Hey, you do your stances? Hey, did you train? He don't do none of that. Too busy. And people are scratching their heads. Why are they teaching me this stuff? Because I put the work in. They don't have to tell me to train. They don't have to tell me to train hard. They don't have to tell me to say go test it. I make their job easier, not harder. A lot of you guys are making these masters quit teaching and being public because of it. Like him. Y'all caused Adam to quit, man. He's not teaching public no more because of this shit. Don't y'all see the ramifications of huddling together and not being honest with yourselves and nitpicking and stealing shit, all to get a title and a rake to feel better about yourself? You're causing the real people to quit, man, and that hinders society. You hinder a person, you hinder everybody else. And I bet, I'm happy. It's not cool, dude. You need to stop this shit.
Right? And these people are having kids. So they're raising another generation of incompetent, low self-esteem, depressed people. Everyone's on pills for anxiety and depression.
But some people are really convinced that they're good. They're really convinced that they could do it, that they have
non-cooperative testing. When I taught publicly, it was all cooperative. When
I taught publicly,
I taught at Robson Square, it was non-cooperative, 85% dropout rate. Nobody wants to stay. They want to quit right away. It's like, oh, okay, you think you're great? I'm not going to say a word. Get on the floor, right? Yeah. But when it's cooperative, complete different ballgame, right?
So
it kind of pissed me off to talk about this because people are simply because the suicide rate in BC is skyrocketing. 68% of people is heavily medicated with depression right now. And I'm looking at this everywhere I go. When we order coffee, when we go for dinner, when we're filming afterwards, we go hang out. I'm like, people are suffering. And they're still going to do this feelings over facts stuff. Look at the mess you're creating with it.
All right, we gonna end it right there, man. We're gonna definitely do a part two, cause this woo yo, the fact that there isn't a big outrage and outcry that great masters are not wanting to teach publicly because of the lack of true discipleship should be blasted all over, and people are pretending like it doesn't exist. I'm not gonna pretend it doesn't exist. I'm not going to, because you're hurting everybody else, dude. So on that note, uh, I love kung fu and I love martial arts groups, and the other groups that are doing this. You need to stop. You need to stop.